Welcome on in to Tossin the Pigskin. I'm your host, Nate Smith. Today we will discuss all the latest NFL news. Week 3 has officially come and gone, and we will take a look at the best games to come this weekend. We will break it all down. Bears and Packers, as always, will give you the best fantasy insight around. Let's go! We'll kick things off with a little TNB, as we like to call it around here, Thursday Night Breakdown. The Packers won the game, but one play left the whole stadium silent. A bone-crunching hit was laid by Bears linebacker Danny Trevathan. This wasn't your average hard hit, folks, where both players popped back up afterwards. Packers wide receiver Davante Adams appeared to be knocked out cold. He was transported to a nearby hospital and was diagnosed with a concussion. All signs point to a clear recovery, which is good news for Adams. Many are calling for Trevathan's head, calling the hit dirty or illegal. Personally, I don't think that's the case at all. After catching a pass, Adams was being held up by other defenders. Trevathan simply came in charging and launched himself towards Adams, making helmet-to-helmet contact. To me, this was a bang-bang football play that had an unfortunate result. It's hard for me to believe Trevathan was headhunting while running full speed with Adams twisting and breaking tackles. That being said, the NFL may see it differently, and we may see a suspension coming down in the coming days. At its core, football is a violent sport. This hit was just another example of the risks the game presents. And with that, I'm joined alongside Vinny, Asito, and Cristian Egurbide, as always. How are we doing today, boys?
Doing good, doing good.
Awesome, ready to get after
Outstanding. So first segment we're about to get into is the most overrated team so far in the league. So Vinny, we'll start with you. Who do you think is the most overrated team in the league right now?
I'm going to go with the 2-1 Baltimore Ravens. You know, their defense has looked fantastic the first 2 weeks, but then they went over to London and got absolutely embarrassed by the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I don't think anyone really expected that. Their offense hasn't really been clicking yet, and I think Flacco needs to step it up over in Baltimore. So as of right now, I think they're a bit overrated.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Cristian, who's your pick?
I'm going to go to the NFC West. The Los Angeles Rams are actually sitting atop that division right now at 2-1, which I think just makes them overrated automatically. You've got Seattle, you've got Arizona still in that division, and you look at the wins they've had. They beat the Colts and they beat the Niners, so two teams that aren't necessarily, at the top of the league. And then they had a loss to the Redskins, who's kind of an up-and-coming team that I think will do well. So right now the Rams, I think, a bit overrated at 2-1.
I agree with both those picks. For me, it's got to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quite frankly, they're sitting at 2-1. Bad loss to Chicago last week. Week 1, they played poorly against Cleveland, only won that game by 3. Just for what I'm seeing from them, it hasn't been the Steelers of old. They have such a rich tradition. They've been so explosive on offense past few years. I don't know if this is because of Ben's age, but it just seems like him, along with the entire offense, Le'Veon Bell, missing camp, all those distractions. It doesn't seem like he's at 100% football shape yet. So for me, the Steelers are the most overrated team at this moment. All right, Cristian, sending it back over to you. Who's your most underrated team right now?
I have the Washington Redskins at 2-1 as my most underrated team. The only loss they've had was a division loss against the Eagles opening weekend, kind of getting the kinks out during that opener. But then they went and beat the Rams and just beat the Raiders last week in a big game where I think they showed that they're kind of a team to be feared. And the NFC East, it's so focused on the Giants and the Cowboys, but you may have to look out for those Redskins. They're 2-1.
Yeah, Vinny, who you got for underrated?
Well, I'm actually going to disagree with Cristian, and my underrated team is the LA Rams right now. I mean, they are 2-1, sitting atop of that division. They haven't really played anyone big yet, like you mentioned, but they have 2 wins this year with a total of 87 total points. So the offense is putting points on the board, and Seattle is just not the Seattle we're used to seeing. So you never know with that division, and I think the Rams can make some more noise this year.
Do you think Goff can play as well against better defenses?
Well, that's the thing. He's got some tests coming up. He plays the Cowboys this week, followed by the Seahawks next week. So
guess we'll
find
out real soon. Yeah, for me, underrated team, I got to go the Detroit Lions. Heartbreaking loss last week against Atlanta, that controversial last play. Easily could have won that game. For me, though, Matthew Stafford, now the highest paid player in the NFL, and so far he's been earning his money. 7 touchdowns, only 1 interception. He doesn't have a ton of passing yards, but clearly he's getting the job done. He's being efficient. Stafford, a knock on him in his career has been, he's got a great arm, but accuracy at points in his career has been an issue. Looks like he's addressed that. So for me, Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions got to be the most underrated team. All right, after the break, we'll get back into predictions as always. Keep it here. Welcome back on in to Tossin the Pigskin. Now we're here to break down this weekend's slate of games. All right, guys, so to start it off, the first game on the slate here of the morning is Detroit at Minnesota. For me, I got to take Minnesota in this one. I just think that defense led by Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith in the secondary, not to mention their front seven, I think they're going to get after Detroit, make Stafford a little uncomfortable. So I'm taking Minnesota in this one. Vinny, who you like?
Well, I never thought I'd be saying this, but Case Keenum proved me wrong last week. I really doubted him, didn't think he would be able to get the job done, and they came out and beat Tampa Bay. So
They did.
I'm taking Minnesota again, especially because they're home. I think the Vikings get the win.
Yeah, and side note, no Bradford again this week, so Keenum will be getting the start once again. All right, Cristian, who we got?
I've got to take Detroit. I got to disagree with you boys. As you said, Stafford's been playing so well. And, Keenum's going to be in the game. Will he play as well as he did last week? I don't know. I think the Detroit Lions defense is going to make just one more play in this game, and the Lions are going to end up with a win. Moving
right along here, we got Pittsburgh at Baltimore. The old rivalry game, one of the richest rivalries in the NFL. Cristian, who you like in this one?
I got to take the Steelers in this one. I really don't think it's even going to be close. I think, as you said, the Steelers are kind of, having their team questioned after a loss last week. And, the Ravens are coming off a bad loss to the Jaguars. Morale's probably low, so I think the Steelers are going to come out just high-powered offense and overpower them.
Vinny?
I agree. Like I said earlier, Baltimore's offense has been pretty shaky this year, and on the other side of the ball, they're missing their big defensive tackle, Brandon Williams, this week, and I think Le'Veon Bell has that big breakout game everyone's been waiting for him to have.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you guys. I'm going to go Pittsburgh as well this week. But like you mentioned, both teams coming off really bad losses. I mean, Baltimore with Jacksonville and Pittsburgh with Chicago. People expected both of those teams to win those games, so I think it'll be a hard-fought battle. I think it'll be a close game, though.
Yeah,
maybe within one. Yeah, they always play each other tough.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along here, we have Oakland at Denver. This is one of the bigger games of the weekend. Vinny, who do you like in this one?
I'm taking Denver. They are home, and Oakland's coming off a loss against Washington, on Sunday Night Football, and they put up a total of 128 yards. So now they're playing a Denver defense in Denver. I don't see much happening over there, so I think Denver wins.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't score on the Redskins, it's going to be hard to score on the Broncos in Denver. Playing at Mile High is always so hard, so I got to take the Broncos in this one too. But the Broncos are coming off a bad loss also to the Bills, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can recover and come out with a good game.
Yeah, another situation where we got two teams coming off bad losses the previous week, but I got to go Denver as well. The Cowboys offense went in there and just could get nothing going. I'd say the Raiders and the Cowboys have a comparable offense. The Raiders might be a little bit better at the moment. But, I mean, that Denver defense at home is no joke. It just seems like they shut everyone down. So I think Derek Carr will have some serious issues over there at Mile High. Okay, Sunday night game, we have Colts and the Seahawks. I like the Seahawks in this one. I really don't see it being very close at all. Jacoby Brissett still under center for the Colts. With no Andrew Luck, that team is pretty much hopeless. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people anticipated this would be an Andrew Luck versus Russell Wilson game. Yeah. That's why it's prime time, but it's the Colts, and I don't see them winning at all. So Seahawks, easy win.
Yeah, going into Seattle with that 12th man, so hard. The defense is probably going to play well. See the Seahawks taking this one.
Yeah, so wrapping it up here, we got Monday night game. This one intrigues me. Washington at Kansas City. Two teams that have been playing well. Kansas City, one of the two teams still undefeated in the league. Cristian, who do you like in this one?
I'm going to take Washington in this one, actually. I was really impressed with what they did against the Raiders, coming out with a big win. I think Cousins is playing very well. Chris Thompson in that backfield is doing well, catching balls out of the backfield, being a weapon. So I think Washington is going to go in and prove that they're one of the most underrated teams in the NFL.
No? Vinny, who you like in this one?
I'm going to have to disagree. I think Kansas City improves to 4-0. Alex Smith is playing some great ball. Kareem Hunt, absolute freak of nature so far. He's got a total of 538 all-purpose yards in just 3 games. So I think Kansas City at home, again, another big home field advantage, and I think they win.
Yeah, Hunt's been incredible, especially considering he wasn't even the starter. They drafted him as a rookie. The whole thing is insane to think about. I like Kansas City in this one. Aside from Denver, Kansas City, in my opinion, might be the toughest place to play in the league. And Seattle's probably up there too. But yeah, you don't want to go into Arrowhead on Monday night in prime time. I just don't think Kirk Cousins will be able to get much going. Chiefs have a good defense and even better at home. And as we mentioned, the offense has been clicking with Hill, Smith, and Hunt. So I like the Chiefs in this one. All right, so out of those 5 that we just listed, we'll start with you, Cristian. Which game are you most intrigued by this weekend?
I think the Vikings in Detroit is one that really intrigues me just because if Keenum can play well like he did last week, we know the Vikings defense is just so tough to go against. So then it'll kind of come down to Stafford and that high-powered Lions offense trying to throw the ball, air it out against Xavier Rhodes and some of these guys on the defense. I think that's just such a fun matchup to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Vinny, what do you think?
I'm going back to the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. I think it's time for one of those teams to step up and prove who it is to beat in the division. So I'm looking forward to that game.
I'm going to go with Oakland-Denver. I'm just very curious to see if Oakland's going to be able to move the ball at all. I think Derek Carr will have his hands full, as we talked about earlier. And Marshawn Lynch, man, where's he been? He really hasn't done much this year. So, he's known for this tough mentality, this tough style of play. We'll see if that holds up over there in Denver. Alrighty, right after the break, we'll get back into it with our final segment. We'll be talking some fantasy. Keep it here. Welcome back in, folks, to Coast to Coast Sports. Now we're talking fantasy. All right, guys, so we'll start it off with some stardoms. Who do you want to start this week? For me, I got C.J. Anderson, running back of the Denver Broncos. We talked a lot about that game earlier, how Oakland's coming to town. I think Denver's able to establish the run game. As we mentioned before, they're very good at home, so I think that O-line will get a push against Oakland, and I like C.J. Anderson this one. Oakland was ranked 20th in rushing yards per game so far, so I like Anderson in this one. Vinny, what about you?
I'm going to go with Le'Veon Bell. Might seem more like an obvious pick, but we're still waiting for him to have that breakout game. And Baltimore this week, I think he has it. So I'm starting Le'Veon Bell for sure.
Definitely. I'm going to go to the Panthers backfield with Christian McCaffrey. They're going up against the New England Patriots this week, and the Patriots defense has not been very good. They're actually last in points allowed so far this season, and McCaffrey out of the backfield, I think, is going to be able to make some moves and catch some passes, maybe be a dangerous fantasy start.
That's an interesting turnaround from last year, being first in points allowed.
Right.
It's only through 3 weeks, but still.
Yeah.
All right, so sit-ems, Cristian. Who you like to sit this week?
Sit-em, I'm going back to that Denver-Oakland game. I think you should sit Amari Cooper. He's going up against maybe the best DB tandem in the league.
The no-fly zone, as they call it.
Chris Harris Jr. and Aqib Talib. Those are two just bad dudes on the defensive side. Yeah. So I think Amari kind of struggles to find some space to get open this week.
Yeah. Vinny, what do you think?
I'm staying in that game as well. I'm going with Derek Carr.
Okay.
I think this week
you got
to find a new quarterback.
Entire Raiders offense, just get to the bench.
I just don't see them moving the ball much. I think Von Miller will be after Derek Carr all day and cause a lot of problems, so I'm sitting Derek Carr.
I agree with both of those picks. For me, I got to go T.Y. Hilton. People might be deceived. Last week, he had 7 receptions, 153 yards, 1 touchdown. Keep in mind, it was against the Cleveland Browns. Still counts, though. Still counts for the stat book. But Jacoby Brissett, the Seattle defense is going to make them so one-dimensional, it's not even going to be funny. They will not be able to do anything. They're going to load the box, make him throw, get after him. That one's just ugly all around. Colts offense, I would avoid anyone on them this week, too. Okay, so for sleepers, I like Lamar Miller versus Tennessee. Now, Miller has been kind of bad this year. He's been average. Yeah. Not bad, not good. He's been average, yeah. Tennessee is 16th in rushing yards allowed so far per game, which is average. So I just have a good feeling about this one. I think Lamar Miller, especially with Deshaun Watson playing well with that breakout week last week against New England, if he can take some pressure off of that run game by airing it out deep, I think Miller might have a good game here. So I'm going Lamar Miller. Cristian, what do you think?
For my sleeper, I have Chris Thompson of the Washington Redskins. He's going in to play KC. It's a tough defense, but last week against the Oakland Raiders, he played very well out of the backfield, caught like 150 receiving yards.
Yeah, he was on fire.
Got into the end zone. So I think this week again, he'll be able to catch some passes out of the backfield and do some damage.
Yeah, I have a personal vendetta against Chris right now because he single-handedly handed me an L last weekend, which was horrible.
He might do it again.
I was up like 30 going into that game, and then just, nope, Chris Thompson. Yeah. Anyways, Vinny, who's your sleeper this week?
I'm going with a team we don't talk much about, the New York Jets. No Matt Forte this week, so Bilal Powell's getting the start.
Yeah.
Going against the Saints defense that really doesn't scare anyone, so I think he's a sleeper and he's going to put up some points this week.
That's a good pick. Yeah, Powell's solid out of that backfield, so we'll see there. All righty, that'll just about do it for us folks here at Coast to Coast Sports. Thank you for joining us, Tossin the Pigskin. I'm Nate Smith, alongside Cristian Egurbide and Vinny Asito. Thanks for watching, and have an outstanding weekend.